Hey, what's up YouTube? My name's Cameron Doherty here with another tech video. So Apple was at it again this week with another announcement event, releasing new products, talking about all their exciting new features. And this was very similar and brought back nostalgia to their events of the past. For me, their events historically have always been exciting times to learn about what types of new tech is coming, what I might be able to purchase, what the new phone that everybody's going to be using is going to be capable of, what I might be having in my pocket on a daily basis. And something struck me with this one in particular that I think has been building for a long time. And it struck me when they started talking about a new $4,000 base price computer. And despite the fact that the tone and the overall appearance is presented the same as they always have.
So that's what we're introducing today. Something totally new that gives our users exactly what they need to build the studio of their dreams. And here it is.
In this very interesting, very focused, very make you want this product sort of way. This is something that so few people actually need. This $4,000 computer is not the sign of inflation. It's not the sign of our needs of computing ramping up to a huge degree. It's a sign of the fact that they're making incredibly capable computers for an incredibly small group of people. And I think this requires a bit of recalibration around what we think about Apple and what we think about these events and their new products. Because I've been doing this YouTube channel for 1 year at this point, and I've edited every single video on this M1 MacBook Air. And this is the base model. This is as simple as it gets. It was right around $1,000. And it has been fantastic, unbelievably powerful at everything that I need it to do. Now, I think my use cases are probably on the higher end of most people using these devices. Granted, I'm only editing 1080p video. I'm not editing even 4K. I'm not doing anything insanely complicated. But most people that are getting these are doing schoolwork, basic emailing, web browsing, simple functionalities like that. And then there's another smaller subset of people that might be doing incredibly complicated 3D modeling, very, sound design and audio visual and 3D, like all sorts of different stuff like that that requires a lot of graphical and CPU power. And chances are, if you're watching this video, you're probably not one of those people. I consider myself a techie. I love learning about tech. I love trying out new things. But even I am nowhere near the capabilities of some of these recent machines that Apple has been able to put out.
With M1 Ultra's extraordinarily powerful media engine, Mac Studio can play an unprecedented 18 streams of 8K ProRes 422 video.
And so despite the fact that these presentations are seemingly for everyone,
Gives our users exactly what they need.
we need to start to reframe our mind to focus on what actually is happening with technology. And that's that I think for the first time, maybe ever, we're seeing an outpacing in capability that is not necessarily being met by need. And I'm not saying that it's not met by need by anyone, because that's not true. There are absolutely people that will max out this $4,000 computer to its highest $8,000 configuration with 128 gigabytes of RAM and an 8 terabyte hard drive and unbelievable statistics and power that will be able to do machine learning that people in the past would dream of. Render 8K videos in a matter of minutes. All of these things used to be not possible, and for the select few that want to do those, we're building unbelievable capabilities for those people to do just that. However, for you and I, we just don't need it. And so I want you to think about the next time you want to purchase a device, or the next time you want to upgrade a device, think about what you really want to use it for and what you really need. Because I think back to not that long ago when students going off to college, if they wanted to go a Mac route, they would just pick up the latest MacBook Pro. And the latest MacBook Pro was a pretty solid computer. The latest MacBook Pros today, number one, start at $2,000, and number two, have some of the most mind-boggling capabilities. Just look at MKBHD's video where he edited his entire video using very, very high-end red footage and did it all on his MacBook Pro. Those sorts of things aren't needed by a college student today. The scales have moved substantially from where they were just less than 10 years ago. And this is happening across all categories, but it's happening in different ways. So we talked about the computers. Let's talk about iPads. This right here is an iPad that I've had for several years. It's a 6th generation iPad from 2018. And in 2018, this was a very capable iPad. It did everything that I wanted it to do and more. And today, it's pretty much exactly the same. Granted, what I want to use an iPad for is watching YouTube when I don't have access to a larger screen or I don't want to watch it on my phone. Browsing the web on a slightly larger screen with touch capabilities. Using simple apps, doing workout videos, different things like that. That's what I use my iPad for. And I think the vast majority of people, that's also what they use an iPad for. But it's easy to think that a 2018 iPad wouldn't be able to handle what you need it to do. But for most people, once again, that's not true. It's perfectly fine. Now, I'm not saying go out and buy a used 2018 version versus buying a brand new one. But if you've got this used 2018 version already and you're thinking about upgrading, really think about what it is that you're getting. And that brings me to the final one, the most relatable, the one that people buy the most frequently, the iPhone. Because the iPhone started out, like many smartphones in the early days, being on common 2-year contracts, in the US at least. And when you bought an iPhone 4 or an iPhone 5, those 2-year contracts really pushed the limits of what those phones could do. I don't know about you, but when I had an iPhone 4 and I got to the end of my 2-year contract, it was pretty much crawling along. It could barely handle the latest iOSs. The battery wouldn't hold a charge very successfully. And all in all, it was just a not great experience. Now combine that with the fact that cameras were getting way better and all sorts of new features were coming out over the years. And it made it really easy and really compelling to put that phone aside and upgrade every couple years. However, I've noticed with my phones a slight elongation of the time that these phones last. And I'm realizing that it's more than just an anecdote to myself, and it's really something that is spreading and that is for everybody. So whereas a phone used to barely make it 2 years and you really did that just for your contract, nowadays 3 years seems like a minimum, and oftentimes people are winding up having phones for well longer than that without really seeing major drops in capability. So I wanted to try and test this theory, and so I reached out to a group of friends of mine, a group of my friends, and asked them, what phone are you using today and when do you think you're going to upgrade it? And it was really interesting to see the results. We had people with phones going all the way back to 2017, and some people that upgraded this last cycle just a few months ago. But what I was seeing in the data is that most people aren't looking to upgrade until 3+ years. And some people, even those that had some of the oldest phones, currently with a 2017 released iPhone 10, someone said, unless the phone breaks, they're not planning to upgrade for at least until 2 years from now. That would make that phone be, what, 6 years old? That's pretty crazy. Maybe even 7 if I'm doing my math right. And I don't think that people have really this hasn't really sunk in for a lot of people. I think we all keep up with the latest tech really closely, and that used to be more relevant than it is today. Smartphones are much more similar to each other than they used to be. Year over year, the narrow gains in performance and capabilities continue to get slimmer and slimmer. I have in front of me here an iPhone 11, an iPhone 12 Pro, and an iPhone 13 Pro. And other than some really small, really minor details like a slightly better camera or having 3 cameras instead of 2 in the case of from the 11 to the 12 Pro, other than those sorts of things, the day-to-day use and the kind of quality of life for any one of these phones is basically exactly the same. From one that's just a couple months old to one that's a year old to one that's 2 years old, I'm not seeing any quantitative differences across battery life, across snappiness, across performance, across anything really. And so I think we all need to just take a step back, relax a little bit, and not really focus on what's coming next as much. And that's got to be a weird thing to hear from someone who is trying to become a tech reviewer. I always love the cutting edge. I'm always going to love the cutting edge. But what I'm realizing more and more is that I don't need it, and you might not need it either.